cut Dade down. Now, Dade not much of a LeBlanc player, so probably going to ban that. They don't want CoCo to get that particular champion, especially if Dade wants to play Twisted Fate, and there it is.
Right on, and so TF, of course, still up there. We'll see if CJ goes all out against Dade. I mean, it's still spring, so I'm not sure how effective that would be, but there are some other high priorities, of course. Do you want to ban out that Thresh? A Heart has shown. Oh, but they are going to all in on those mid lane champions. And so now are we going to see priority over probably jungler support picks? We'll see what Samsung decides to go with.
I think you go for Thresh here. Wow, that would be unusual. But Acorn did play a ton of top Lulu, which not my favorite pick in the top lane. I think that there are a variety of ways to shut it down in lane swap situations. Now they may go for the Twitch. Deft hasn't shown a high degree of skill compared to some other Korean AD carries. He's much more, I think, successful on Lucian, on Kog'Maw these days.
I would agree. But Space, of course, is a well-known Twitch player, so taking it away might be worth it. Of course, Twitch just in general hailed as one of the stronger AD carries right now. Lulu being locked in as the first pick over champions like Thresh, Lee Sin, or even Twitch right now.
I really don't think you give Thresh to MadLife. I think that's kind of a mistake. And also, there are other priority picks up too. You've got a couple jungle options, but Spirit has been best on Kha'Zix overall, and Swift has just been sensational on Lee Sin, so maybe you take away, Spirit of course a great Lee Sin player as well, but maybe you go ahead and take away that Lee Sin pick first. Lulu this high up in priority, it's weird.
It's a little bit surprising.
Acorn has been putting a lot of emphasis on that. We saw it again and again and again. During the Champions Spring Final, he did play it 3 out of the 4 games. And the lane swap is really a big issue with Lulu, especially if Frost takes a champion that can successfully jungle, and they're going to take away the Kha'Zix from Spirit right now. So no Lee Sin yet. Lee Sin falling pretty far down in the draft.
Yeah, we'll probably see Lee Sin, being taken up by Spirit here. I'd love to see Galio. Galio was one of my first 6,300 IP purchases in League of Legends because no one used Galio back then, and no one does right now.
So you just go after the stuff that is
no
bad?
One uses, yeah. I make it work, man. Top Galio with teleport, get that double kill in bot lane. If there is a ward, very conditional, and my flash is up. But we probably won't be seeing
And they have nothing to knock you out of your ult.
Nothing to knock me out of my ult. But if all those conditions are met, pretty great champion, I would say.
You also like to play Teleport Katarina, don't you?
Teleport on everybody, man. But Nami Kog'Maw would be a much more sensible pickup here for Samsung.
Well, and this is setting up the Yasuo pick as well. That's the one thing that hasn't really come into play yet that we saw consistently banned against Dade. And Samsung Ozone at least, the Yasuo Masters alongside Blue. And we did see that Ozone, at least, in their blind picking game against Blaze was very confident, and Pawn picked it in a blind match, which is a little bit of a surprise, but I think it really does show how highly the Samsung organization values that champion, and especially when they can get Nami Kog'Maw as well, because this is such great peel and protection they have for Kog'Maw and a guaranteed knockup with Tidal Wave. So this is looking like a really strong team composition for Blue, but I love the fact that Shy is going to be playing Mundo. So if they can lane swap against the Lulu top, they should be highly successful.
Yeah, again, you talked about that lane swap being a little bit of an issue for Lulu, so we'll see where that Lulu goes. Of course, the Lulu pick could have just been also to deny it from CoCo. CoCo showed us once again during the playoffs against Najin, and Yasuo being locked in right away before even we see that mid pickup from CJ.
Yeah, but with the Nami, this is such a preferential team composition, and what are you going to play into Dade's Yasuo? It's been so strong. And there we go. Probably going to be a Lee Sin. It adds another knockup element for Yasuo, so you just have one more tool. But do they really need it at the same time? Because they have Lulu and Nami already, but they're going to take it. So this is very important because now Dade will be able to go anywhere on the map, to any lane, and have a knockup for his ultimate. That is absolutely huge.
Yep. So the roaming potential of Yasuo just amplified a ton right now. Now, Kayle would be probably the most expected pickup here from CoCo. Works okay against Yasuo, especially because as soon as you turn your back on Kayle, that's where you're going to take all your damage, and Yasuo has to. Is a melee champion, and CoCo, of course, one of the players rather, not champions, one of the players who has brought back Kale with that Runens build.
Yeah, and that build has proved very strong for CJ Frost. It has helped them earn some pretty crucial victories, and other teams starting to pull it out as well now. Najin Shield has been trying to use it also, and it's going to become a very common pick, I think, as players get more accustomed to it. It's just so strong in terms of team fighting. And also the Kale pick good against Yasuo because you can shield whoever he ults.
Yes. So we'll see how all that works out. I mean, lots of things to consider here. How well are those wind walls going to work against Twitch, of course, but if CJ can bait it out first, and they do have a lot of skills, they can try to bait out a wind wall, especially notably Thresh's death sentence. But on the flip side, Dade might not be too worried about that. He can initiate whenever he wants because his teammates all have knockups except for Kog'Maw. And Kog'Maw will be in the back anyway with tons of protection from Nami. On the flip side, CJ, we do have that Kha'Zix for Swift. So Swift and Spirit perhaps switching probably their strongest champions to try to take it away from each other, but they're very versatile junglers anyway, so I don't think that'll be too big of an issue. Space and MadLife also on some comfort picks.
Problem here for CJ Frost is that they have very poor engage with this composition against the Nami, so they're going to have to make picks with it.
We'll see if they can. They used to all the time with MadLife. Does he have his game sense back? And Hart, we saw talking a ton during that pickman phase with his team, so he's got some thoughts in his head right now on how to fight against this team composition from Frost. We are going into set number 1 between CJ and the Samsung. It's blue from the Samsung side and Frost from CJ to kick it off in this week of the playoffs in Masters 2014. Let's get in the game, guys, to find out who's going to lead between Samsung and CJ. And Samsung on the blue side, as we saw during picks and bans here, with a very Samsung-esque team composition once again. And full wards from MadLife, as he's always been doing recently.
Yeah, and this is just because they want that lane swap coming in. As we talked about earlier, the game plan here, and I think what CJ Frost noticed was that in the finals, Blue versus Shield, Shield played their level 1s over the course of the series quite poorly. And nobody really took advantage of a lane swap against a Lulu because Save repeatedly played Ryze into it, and so they kind of wanted the 1v1. And the thing about this Lulu pickup is if you get the 1v1, it's great. If you don't, the jungle follow compared to a champion that can jungle, like Shyvana, Jax, Mundo, some of these other champions, is very weak. So you can easily fall behind in lane because Acorn will be very slow at jungling either, but he has to jungle a Spirit, can't take any camps by himself, and if he just stays in lane, it's all too easy to dive. So I think Frost probably recognized this, and this is going to be a weapon that they use. And Frost's level 1s have actually been pretty solid recently. And there we go, there's a cleaver check in the brush. Hart just going to poke out right there. So they know that they're on the top side of the map. Back off, they've got a ward already covering their own blue buff.
Yeah, and it seems Samsung also somewhat more prepared to try to scout out what CJ's plans are here. Rotations, Monty, all day, air day. Rotations here and there and everywhere.
Oh boy, I don't even know what to say about stuff like that.
The best new thing in League of Legends. Rotations.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the lights are upon us. I love it. I love it. And Acorn showing up in mid to avoid that scenario. So, seems Samsung was always prepared for this. That was good.
That was special. Yeah, and this is a very different strategy than what we've seen before. But Yasuo going to have the same problems. I mean, what the hell is Yasuo going to do? The only person who's ever tried to jungle Yasuo was Insec, and that resulted in something like an 0-10 game. So.
Well, probably a little bit better off than Lulu at the very least, so we'll see how he fares with that. Of course, he is still just going with a standard full follow, so not going to be too big of an issue yet.
Well, it can be an issue with the speed that you can go through this, but everybody just going to go ahead and take their own buffs this time around. Nice and safe on that bottom side of the map. With the duo lane, we'll see how well this goes. Dade just hitting level 2 right now, and Hart will decide to recall, and and head, let's see where he goes, down into the bottom lane, at least a hold looks like, once the recall of Spirit and Dade is completed.
Yep, yeah, just going ahead. Buying his items, probably have the gold enough to already go down to that lane, so we will see Hart already prepared to turn this back into a 2v2 and leave Deft up top alone on Kog'Maw. And we've seen this quite often from Samsung, and in fact right now it doesn't even matter because there are no lane opponents for Deft, so he's safe and sound, and Swift's just taking this chance to go for a slight little invade while Shy shows up in bot lane to try to overpower that lane.
Yeah, the thing about this is that Shy didn't share experience on all the camps, meaning that he only just hit level 2, so he didn't get the biggest advantage. Oh, this is clever. Goes down, immediately teleports into top lane once he sees Hard in bot. So there's no kill pressure top. So Frost actually playing this one out beautifully so far. And the main issue right now is that Dade doesn't have the teleport to make the same kind of pressure and wave catching plays that Shy has. Of course, he has now hit level 3 as a result of getting that nice big wave and Hart deciding to rotate down into the bottom side of the map.
Yeah, so we have Dade still there. The teleport is on Acorn, but of course he can't leave that mid lane as easily, so not going to make a big difference until later in the game in terms of bigger objectives. And so we have a 2v2 now here in that bottom lane. Swift rather, going up to that top lane to go for a kill with Shy. Deft is up pretty far. He got hit with one cleaver, but he's smartly walking through all the minions, puts down a lot of damage onto Deft. The teleport coming in from Acorn. Can he get the kill onto Swift? He gets one hit flash from Swift, and Glitterlance gets the first blood onto Acorn and a blue buff.
Yeah, hugely good reactive play from Acorn right there, and there's nothing Kale can do to stop that from happening. The actual play there was a smart idea from Swift, but a little bit of an overextension. Took some minion wave damage. And this is what I wanted to know about the finals when we saw some of this stuff, is because with the top lane Lulu, what would have happened if a proper lane swap had occurred? And Samsung Blue obviously had this just waiting in reserve in case this situation happened. But Najee Shield never forced it on them. But it's fun to see it now.
Yeah, the way they're playing it out is clearly not a new thing. It's very practiced and polished from these guys on the blue team. And Acorn now with a newfound blue. Let's look at a replay, though.
Yeah, and look at this. Swift just coming in, and as soon as he sees that teleport, tries to get out, but he takes so much caster minion damage, and look at the range for the Bio-Arcane Barrage as well. Acorn following up with the flash, and there's no kill pressure anymore, just from a solo Mundo.
Nope, so Shy just pushes it up and is going back home. Meanwhile, we see a lot of just lane swaps back to normal here from Samsung Blue. Acorn still staying down there, or down here in that mid lane, but we see Deft now coming back to join his support here in bottom lane.
Yeah, in the 2v2. So what this has done, however, is it has put Dade just a little bit behind in terms of CS and in terms of levels. So in spite of the kill onto Swift, if that hadn't happened, this still would have been overall a better situation for CJ Frost. Although nobody has really fallen too far behind at the moment, and looks like Dade should be able to catch back up in levels shortly. He is going to be very vulnerable to ganks in a side lane, and that hasn't truly been exploited yet.
Yeah, well, Swift is showing up, and Dade hasn't put down his ward yet. Swift also just level 4, and Shy level 5. Shy does have a lot of health, so chasing through isn't too big of an issue, but the wave is pushed too far forward, so Swift decides to back off, and then they're going to communicate about that ward being there, and possible other wards. So pink ward put down, but ooh, nice ward placement from Samsung to avoid being spotted at that edge.
Yeah, indeed. And of course, because that teleport too, Acorn did fall, again, a little bit further behind in terms of CS. But this is a composition that CJ Frost really just wants to ride out. They have a better late game, they've got the better scaling, and they have a true tank here.
That is very true already, as we can note on Mundo.
So, but Samsung Blue, what they want to do is just force 5v5s. And CJ Frost, this is a pick composition. Their siege until Kale gets Lichbane is going to be pretty bad. They don't have the best champions for engaging from one direction. They don't have an engage answer to a Nami ult, which is a huge problem. Because you look at Frost, you're like, well, you can't really siege until the very late game, effectively.
Right.
You can't really engage a team fight, so this is going to have to be picks that are played out very intelligently with vision in the fog of war, and hoping that MadLife lands some clutch hooks, or that you have enough vision control that Shy can teleport into the back line of Samsung Blue, because if he can get onto Kog'Maw, it's going to be very difficult to remove him. But he's not going to be able just to run at them. He's going to have to come in from the back or from the flank. So it's very important that before CJ Frost starts trying to play around Dragon and Baron, because they don't have good siege, that they have wards that Shy has an option of teleporting to. And he will eventually, of course. He's going to get bullied in lane by Lulu in a split-pushing situation, but eventually, come 25, 30 minutes, he's going to be able just to sit in lane and constantly harass either Yasuo. Well, Yasuo can't be there without teleport, so pretty much Lulu out.
Yeah, that's true. Late game, we will probably see that kind of positioning from both of those players. And for now, we'll have to wait until any of these towers go down to really see how that vision works out for now. All the wards just preventing against any gank. Spirit up here for a lane gank in top lane has not been spotted by Shy, at least not notably so. But Shy seems to want to play it safe despite having a Giant's Belt. Of course, Dade doesn't have too many items himself. And Swift preparing to move on up here. Now, Swift will be spotted if he moves up forward, but he's waiting patiently further back.
Yeah, they are just trying to set up for this. Dade has taken some damage from the cleavers and the trades from Shy. Shy backing off his turret, going to take a few more hits from the cannon minion, but there's not really an option, and Swift will be seen as he uses his lens. Go ahead and clear that one out.
Yep, and with that challenge, Lulu doing okay now to clear out those Wraith camps here and there in the middle. Hart just trying to prevent MadLife from defending his ward.
This is very interesting, Chobra. Spirit has opted to go Boots of Mobility first on a Lee Sin jungle. This is not something that's seen very frequently anymore. It does give you a lot of map pressure and map presence. And they do need to hit a little bit of an earlier power spike right here, just because of their composition. Of course, Kog'Maw will scale late, and Yasuo can become a terror, but the Lulu will fall off. And they have to be worried about...
Oh, MadLife taking a lot of damage. And Spirit not going to hit a Sonic Wave, though we do see CoCo and Swift going for a gank. And Spirit's going to walk up here just to make sure no one shows up. Ping's going all around for CJ. And CJ members are trying to wrap around the back of Dragon Pit, but they will be seen. Looks like they're going to clear that out with a lens.
Yeah, it's backing off again. And Spirit also, this is delaying his usual lens timing because he doesn't have the faster sight zone, and he wants to just be as mobile as possible in order to get the damage and the kills down. So he wants to hold on to that ward totem so he has a target to jump to.
Yep. We do have the 2 pink wards earlier from CJ still there, so they have some more dominant vision control in the middle area of the map. And MadLife going to now show up in this top lane, leaving Space all alone in bottom.
This has been a little bit of a weird game. Swift and CoCo and MadLife. Here comes the dive onto Dade.
Oh,
they're trying to shut this down, and I don't think Dade is going to be able to get out of this one.
Yeah, it's going to be pretty tough. We have tons of slows and hard CC coming in with all these 4 members. Dade trying to just wrap around all around the minions. Windwall used to avoid a ton of damage as Acorn shows up. There's the wild growth that keeps Dade alive. And are they going to get a kill in return? No, CoCo will get out for now and not die. The health pot ticking through to keep CoCo alive.
Yeah, they got the kill and they got the teleport out of Acorn as well. So here we go again.
And Acorn being now ambushed by Swift. They blow the flash from Acorn, so both summoners down now for Acorn, while CJ picks up a kill, keeps CoCo safe, and Shy flashing forward, but here's Hart and Spirit to turn things around. There's the tidal wave. Shy gets caught. There's the lantern. Can Shy reach it? He's been polymorphed, but he clicks on it at the last second and will ride to safety.
Very nicely done. And that's a big win for Frost, coming in, finally shutting down Dade and punishing him for being in that more vulnerable situation.
Shy's going to be bullied. Actually, Spirit's already here at the double go. Shy's going to pay for that one, and he will go down to Acorn.
Big mistake.
Yeah, that's going to result in
that. Stick around. They really didn't want to be in that situation. But Samsung Blue took advantage of the fact that everybody had recalled to get some deep wards down so they would know exactly how far they could push their advantage. They're going to get a tower for it. So after that, it's like Samsung Blue coming out ahead after all. And CoCo trying to get some hits down here on the mid lane tower.
Yeah, that mid lane will go down pretty shortly. And now this time Deft is pretty low. Space being chased out, and Swift already took the lantern, but Deft pushes out forward, so they're going to try to go for a dive here onto Deft. Deft is way too squishy right now to deal with that one. MadLife will pick up the kill right under the tower as Space and Swift pick up assists.
And this will allow them to transition smoothly into a dragon if they want it. No threat of the Kog'Maw poke coming down onto the Dragon Pit. Here we go. Going to try and get it. Spirit may opt for a steal. He does have a ward right there, but MadLife could be ready to flay it.
Yeah, it's CoCo going to take the Sonic Wave away from him. We do see the spike coming in from Swift, and there's the intervention from CoCo as Dade jumps onto that Kha'Zix. Space will pick up the kill onto Dade as Swift leaps out. There's a wild growth onto Acorn, but no flash. Just one more cleaver, but Nami and both Lulu giving Lulu that speed buff to run away.
Yeah, the fact that the tidal wave was down there made it very difficult for Dade to actually engage that properly. And when you don't have the tidal wave, Samsung Blue really shouldn't be fighting because they absolutely need that to prevent CJF Frost from engaging with these high damage champions. Kale and Twitch and Kha'Zix, you have to kite with this composition, or at least use the tidal wave so that Dade has a chance to ult immediately onto the back line. That said, CoCo chose the right target at the right time in order to prevent Dade's ults from doing pretty much anything at all. And this has been a really good game for CJF Frost. They may be behind in gold, but they're definitely controlling the pace of this game right now.
Yeah, and that intervention leading into Kha'Zix going into stealth was just beautiful here from CJ. We see the bubble hitting Swift, and that's where Dade's going to jump in, but an immediate intervention halfway through, and then Swift will disappear after putting down some damage.
Yeah, well, he doesn't disappear because he's hit by Lee Sin E, but he actually kills Dade right there as well as he tries to finish up the kill. But it does give him enough, at least damage reduction from his R in order to live through any subsequent damage. And Swift going to go over to the red buff.
Yep, he'll be taking that this time around. In the bottom lane, Deft has been pretty quiet this game. Got taken down in that dive earlier, but is slightly ahead in terms of CS compared to his counterpart Space, and Space not going to be hit. And Deft actually got to get pulled in by Death Sentence, gets hit by the box. There is the ultimate from Twitch. They will not pick up the kill just yet. Hard keeping Kog'Maw alive, and Kog'Maw going for a dive. Spirit might be able to dive in for this one. Wild growth, and there's the Dragon's Rage for a double kill onto Spirit.
Wow, Acorn with a picture-perfect teleport right there, taking advantage of the timing window while Shy's port was down. And wow, Spirit just making plays under the turret with the help of that wild growth. Impressive.
Yeah, the threat there from, of course, the Acathian surprise, I think did actually catch Space a little bit off guard as he saw that Lee Sin fly towards him in a dive. So both teams really trading efficiently in terms of, summoners being down and what that leads to in terms of bigger objectives. Meanwhile, on top lane, we did see a gank onto Dade here, and once that wind wall is on, you can try to dash around, but there's no escape.
No, and that's another death for Dade, who's 0-3-0, and we're showing the disadvantage of having this Yasuo in a side lane. Yasuo needs to farm up and get that blade before he can really split push very well by himself in the side lane, because it gives him extra escapability and some sustain. And you don't want to be next to Mundo and Kha'Zix, so tower for tower as well, as mid turret went down to CoCo's pressure due to Acorn's constant roaming. And it's actually been impressive that Samsung Blue, with this teleport Lulu from the mid lane, has been able to pick up 2 towers in each side. Every time Lulu ports, they manage to turn it into an objective, which
very true
probably shouldn't be happening. But CoCo, of course, does get the mid lane turret. He's been working away on it for a while, and he's going to continue split pushing right here.
Yep.
And he is not going Hurricane this game as a second item.
No, he's going what used to be the more standard build here with that measly large rod. So perhaps deciding that he just needs a little bit more burst and himself being the actual carry rather than helping out Twitch's damage with that shred.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's going to go for the death cap. I think that...
Or Zonia's.
Yeah, maybe a DFG. There are a lot of options right now. The DFG is still on the table because of how squishy everybody on Samsung is, that you would be able to destroy them even faster as a single target with the DFG leading into some burst. So I'm very curious as to where we're going to go with this.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, of course. Just the rod doesn't really tell us much. All 3 items would have their places here in CoCo's build that lead up from a needlessly large rod. Yeah,
the Zhonya's may be an option just to deal with Dade, and therefore he can, he could use his ult on somebody else instead, like Space. So I'm very curious to see how this works out.
We'll wait and keep an eye on that one. Of course, he is farming up quite a bit in that side lane, so I think we'll see it relatively quickly as Swift clears out some wards here. We'll take out both Vision and the green and pink wards here as Acorn was all alone in the bottom lane, but 3 of his teammates showing up. Deft the only one here in mid, but CoCo puts down a ton of damage onto that outer. CJ not sticking around. CoCo does get tagged by Spirit, but Space also joining up for CJ here. Neither team really wanting to take the first jump onto the other.
We're not seeing a lot of wards yet, but Frost didn't have the best setup for this Dragon coming up in 40 seconds. They still have some time in order to go get it. It certainly would help them if CoCo was able to take out the bot lane turret now, just to be able to push that wave further down and gain better vision control around the Dragon, but he's going to back off. Nobody else really recalling to get some wards right now, so Frost maybe at a little bit of a disadvantage. Going to take out a pink ward right there. Lens will remove the regular ward from behind the red buff blue.
Now, Shy, of course, had his teleport up, but he's just going to walk down. He had the lane pushed up in top. Wasn't able to take the tower as Acorn shows up. Acorn, no teleport just yet, but it doesn't have too much time left on it. So if Samsung can drag this out with the dance around the Dragon Pit, they might be able to wait for Acorn to show up. He's actually just going to whimsy on down. Of course, Lulu very quick, and CJ starts that Dragon not voluntarily as Kog'Maw goes in and pokes in and puts down a ton of damage onto Swift. Spirit looking for a steal, and we're going to see Twitch take the Dragon. Shy activates his ultimate, gets kicked away, and there's a tidal wave as MadLife flashes forward for a box engage, but that may be a mistake as Acorn shows up behind trying to take Shy out. MadLife barely alive, but he's sandwiched along with Space, who does not have an escape other than his flash over the wall. Doesn't get it. Glitterlance comes in from Acorn, and now CoCo and Swift on the run. They've been slowed by a red buff tag, and Dade trying to chase through for a kill onto CoCo. He will have to flash out, and they will also give up their own blue buff as Samsung converges on it.
And that Dragon actually ended up being pretty even. When your average level is about 10, the Dragon is worth approximately 2 kills with those assists. So it not the best, and Samsung Blue may convert this into a mid tower as well, which would give them a pretty just commanding lead. And we saw the problems with CJ Frost's comp right there, which is that they don't have enough engage. So when Lulu's slowing you from the back, they were just kind of all running around in circles in this pincer with not much that they could do. If we watch this, Shy, of course, gets chunked out. And this is exactly how Samsung Blue wants to fight MadLife with the Flay box, but the tidal wave makes it so they can't follow up on it. And then Acorn here, the threat from the back. Look, they're not even putting out any damage right now at all. They have to split and run.
And looks like we missed a kill onto CoCo here in the bottom lane. Dade and Acorn. Dade used his ultimate after the wild growth. And Dragon's Rage also was used, of course, earlier in the Dragon fight. So wild growth knock up leading into that last breath. Kale goes down. Space has some time up here in top lane to push it up. There's a huge wave following through, and 2 of his teammates helping out. So Deft and Heart may be in some trouble here as Heart goes for a lens clear. Swift will spot him out, but we're going to see Deft just be able to clear that out just fine. CJ not ready for a dive. See what happened in bot lane.
Oh, Acorn actually teleported down for this.
Oh, and the ultimate used beforehand just with, of course, Dade on his own.
That was a lot of investment just to kill CoCo. I'm a bit surprised they would make that play. They didn't really get anything else besides a kill out of it, but they do, I mean, they are able to keep all their turrets up, which is pretty important. So they punish again. It is 1 turret to 3, and Samsung Blue starting to get a large lead in this game.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Monty, CJ has to go with that pick, and if you can't take those outer turrets down, you're not going to be able to win that vision war at this point in the game. So Blue seems to be doing pretty fine for themselves. Meanwhile, CoCo did buy a blasting wand, so looks like he's going for that death cap, just a ton more AP to kick things off here in this first set between CJ and Samsung.
Yeah, we'll give him some good sustain, too, for the burst with that heal on Kale. And here we go, finally trying to push this down as 3.
Should be able to go down as we see Swift and Space also show up, but actually all the members of Blue responding right away. They're really investing a ton to keeping these 2 side outer turrets down. That's giving them a lot of vision control in their own jungle to make sure CJ can't dive in. And CJ a little bit split up. There's a nice Glitterlance onto MadLife and CoCo in the side of the fight. MadLife dodges the knockup, but he's going down really low, puts the box down at the last minute as we see Swift jumping onto Dade, but Dade still gets the last breath with his wild growth, and he's leaping all around, just slicing through the entire team of CJ, and a quick team ace as Samsung Blue pushes through in this bottom lane with a triple kill for Deft.
Well, CJ Frost, this composition is a little questionable in the first place because it can only do one thing. And in this situation, if they do get hit by a tidal wave like that, they just get locked up forever. So that good damage going down, and Space targeted very quickly with the ultimate from Yasuo, and CoCo just not picking the right target to ult either, which is another problem in that team fight. Bit risky.
Yeah, and we see what happens if you can't protect those targets.
Yeah, and look at the range from Kog'Maw too, just doing work right here. They turn on the MadLife in an instant. And there we go. They're just so trapped. They're getting hit by the glitter lances from the side of Acorn. They were all lined up for that, and Deft able to put down this single target damage as well. After all that CC, just a very clean team fight from Samsung Blue. But without MadLife there to provide CC to protect Space, it's not really much you can do.
Yeah, and as you mentioned in the beginning of that fight, Kog'Maw's range doing work onto MadLife's Thresh right now. Of course, along with the blessings from Nami, it's not really working out too well for Thresh on the side of CJ this game. We'll see if they can finally take down these outer turrets at some point to make some picks happen. You mentioned that you need those hooks over those walls where Samsung is a little bit blind. Take out one person first for CJ, and Blue is just not interested in ever giving Frost an opportunity to do that.
No, I love the fact that they're grouping to defend these turrets because they know that CJ Frost's siege is incredibly poor. So they're just standing there. They're not going to be able to engage. And then they're probably going to be able to turn it just due to the long range of their own engage with things like Glitter Lance on a minion, heading to a tidal wave or something like that. I think it's just very smart strategic reads from Samsung Blue.
I would agree. They're playing it out quite well. They now have a hefty gold lead on top of course, all sorts of other leads in this game. Swift has to jump out. Look at the damage coming out from Deft. He's got the blessings from Nami, the red buff, and of course his own Bioarcane Barrage, and Baron being started by Samsung after chasing members of CJ away. They do have full vision control on it, and CJ not responding just yet. They're being very cautious about getting vision as they near that Baron pit, but Baron is going to go down before CJ reaches the pit, and Samsung gets a clean Baron and a tidal wave. Will they initiate onto this? Yes, they will chase through as Acorn jumps forward with a Glitter Lance Wild Growth. CoCo goes out really low, has to use intervention on himself. He backs off to put down some shred, but Spirit jumps over to finish him off, and Samsung all split up, but Deft gets cornered in by Shy, and Swift getting the resets across the wall. Spirit coming in to try to save Deft, but they can't finish off another member of CJ as Space has been untouched in this fight until now, where Acorn almost takes him out.
Yeah, that said, 3 members of Blue going down after that Baron. It was pretty early considering they don't really have a true tank onto the team, but Space hitting the big spray and pray there to turn it around, but Shy keeps getting chunked, and there's Spirit. Okay.
Yep, I guess was cornered out by MadLife as Shy chases through, and Acorn gonna see if he can maybe delay this dragon. I mean, health is pretty low. Swift also still very low here. Acorn could just get a nice Glitter Lance and start the fight here 1v4. He's gonna take out MadLife. Can he get the kills onto Space, Shy, and Swift? Shy very low, doesn't have sadism up just yet. He's got just a second on it. It's back up now, and Shy's going to pop it to run away as Acorn tries to chase through with that Whimsy. Can he get the Glitter Lance? Will not hit the Glitter Lance after the help picks, and Shy should be able to get away with the help of Cleavers.
Yeah, Hart still hunting around the jungle right there. He does find CoCo. CoCo at full HP, however.
CoCo trying to run away. Exhaust is on him. Dade chasing through, but Hart does not have Tidal Wave up. They can't get that long-range initiation. Shy also at pretty much full health after that sadism.
Yeah, a bit of miscommunication right there. Shouldn't have used the exhaust if you weren't going to be able to follow up. His Aqua Prison was on cooldown, and no ultimate meant that Dade wasn't going to get that engaged. A bit of a waste of a summoner spell. And let's take a look at that fight again. So, not too low right there, but using this knockup and then using the Lulu knockup right afterwards without Dade ulting was the big mistake right here. So they actually, right now, because they ran forward without Dade being in the back line on the carries already, they gave CJ Frost that engage that they've been wanting. What you have to do there is just immediately follow up with the Yasuo ultimate, because otherwise this is going to happen where all of CJ Frost's engage problems are magically solved because you used all your abilities to get into them without actually following up with the damage that is supposed to come with that. And from a skirmishing perspective too, Mundo, Kale, Twitch, and Kha'Zix are not things you're going to win against.
Yeah, that is very true. And as you mentioned, Space Untouched gets a full ultimate off on 3 members of Samsung during that fight. Spirit had to use his Dragon's Rage to finish CoCo off in a desperation kill. And while we were talking, Samsung does respond with a top lane tier 2, but Shy's going to go ahead and take the tier 1 finally in this bottom lane against Samsung Blue.
Dade just trying to push the wave back right now. They have a couple members with the Baron buff remaining, and now they just need to force sieges again. With Kog'Maw, they have the disengage, they've got the poke, they've got the Lichbane down onto Lulu, and they have the wind wall. So, group, siege a turret. That's all you got to do, Samsung Blue.
Yep. And Acorn, let's take a little bit of time here to talk about this guy. We talk about how he has that consistent KDA. He's one of the top laners who likes to group earlier, and it shows again. We saw those teleports in lane. He's 5-0-7, results in the 2 very early tier 1 towers against CJ. Just still playing his role just fine, even though he started off, of course, in that mid lane.
And not only that, but he's got 100 CS advantage right now, just due to his superior wave clear on this AP Lulu build.
And Runan's now finished for CoCo. CJ looking to just chase Samsung off, and Hart gets taken down quite low, but Swift not able to eliminate him right away. So CJ's going to have to back off as Swift takes a lot of damage. Swift back up to half, but takes another Glitter Lance. The heals don't come fast enough, and Spirit just tagging Shy for a little bit of tickle fun here. Shy taking a lot of damage. A sideways tidal wave is going to push the entire team of CJ off as Samsung safely takes that tier 2 in mid, and they will continue to siege up here. Acorn, of course, has that blue buff, so all the mana he needs to try to zone people out with Glitter Lance. And CJ can't defend right now. They have both Mundo and Kha'Zix back home.
Well, this shows how confident Samsung Blue is in their composition, and the lack of engage from CJ Frost is that you can see Hart get chunked out like that, and they're just happy to sit there 4 versus 5 because there's no chance that they're going to get killed effectively.
Yeah, very true. Hart just had to back off for a little bit, heal up his skills, and Shy's going to notice that little whirlwind come by and going to take his time as he moves up in that lane and bottom. Acorn pushing up that side lane, and top still trying to defend that last tier 1 standing in the game. CJ grouping up as 4 here in mid. Shy has his teleport, so does Acorn though, so both teams will have to be pretty wary of that. Ward gets eliminated by CJ, so that's not an option, but Samsung still has plenty of wards in CJ's jungle for Acorn to flank around from.
Yeah, he'll be feeling pretty happy about this, and Dade is just trying to get bottom lane pressure right before this Baron comes up because they need to get the wards around it. And they're trying to just take a look for any wards on the bottom side. They have to be somewhat careful because of how fast this CJ Frost team can do Baron with their composition and the items that they've managed to pick up. CoCo just going to take a few of the wolves out of his own jungle before moving into the mid lane.
Uh-oh, Space and Swift caught a little bit out of position, and there's a Dragon's Rage forward just to get the ultimate from Dade, and they will assassinate Space. Swift gets knocked up again. There's the intervention from CoCo, but it might not be enough as Swift gets locked in by a double knockup leading into that tidal wave as Dade goes for the double kill, chasing onto Swift. Swift lanterns out of his base just to live a little bit longer as MadLife keeps Dade under tower. MadLife might be able to try to take Dade out here with that exhaust and the box, but Dade will live thanks to a new minion wave, and Swift and Spirit in a jungle duel as Spirit just taunts his prey a little bit before going in for the kill. MadLife still being juggled up here under his inhibitor turret. Spirit looked pretty furious there after that fight.
Well, Dade too, using that minion wave that came at exactly the right time past the inhibitor in order to stop MadLife from chain CCing him helplessly under the turret. And that'll be an inhibitor, a really nice setup from Samsung Blue. You have to agree with Spirit's engage right there in order to get him down, because not only that, but he tagged Twitch with his E as well, so there was just no escape as soon as Space ambushed. So there you go, there's the E has gone down onto him, and he tries to hide, but there is no hiding.
Yeah, and then Switch really has no escape here, just gets juggled. There's the whirlwind knockup, then we're gonna see another one from
And
Dade.
look at that, chaining the CC so well. And then Swift will be able to get out alive. Now MadLife going to try and save his teammates right here and maybe even pick up a kill by using all of his crowd control abilities, but just unfortunate timing on the minion wave.
Yeah, meanwhile, Shy does finally take Hart down, but as a Nami, Hart lived pretty long with all those heals on his team. Deft using his Summoner heal to keep Nami alive longer so that he could take Window down without a threat. And so now Samsung feeling pretty good, up 10k in gold, has an inhibitor down in mid, and Baron is up. Dragon just gets taken down by Deft for Samsung Blue.
Yep, quick little Dragon. They do have decent vision control or decent wards. They do need to clear, however, if they want to put pressure onto this objective. And Dade's not there. He's in the bottom lane right now. So Frost able to bully out Samsung Blue in spite of their lead.
Yeah, but it's not going to last too long. Dade shows up here in mid lane in just about a second. He left bottom lane, so CJ decides to not chase through on any damage they might have been able to put down. And Spirit not taking much damage from anyone at this point. Has both the Banshees and a Randuin's Omen. Tons of health and some good balanced defensive stats here for both magic and physical damage.
Hart deciding to head back into the base. He does have boots of mobility with home guard, so it won't take him hardly any time at all to get back over to...
He's actually stuck around as they go in for an engage here, speeding themselves up, and they do get a triple knockup onto the tidal wave, and Spirit jumping forward to keep everyone locked down. Shy dives in a little bit too far. Dade finally jumping onto space, and look at that Deft. The damage comes in all the way through, and Dade leaping from target to target. CoCo left alone amongst the team of Samsung Blue. All CJ could do was finally take down that Yasuo, but now they have all the tools they need to finish the game. Shy the only one alive. We have that Lich Bane on Acorn, and of course, most importantly, Kog'Maw still alive.
That's right, and of course the Lich Bane Lulu as well will make short work of these towers as they wait for the super minion waves to pour into the base. And this will be the game for Samsung Blue as they use some interesting lane swapping, and Dade having a hard time early. Started 0-3-0, ends 5-5-9 with the help of all the knockup on his team.
And Acorn ending 5-0-14 has a 19 KDA so far in the postseason here in Masters 2014. But Blue really more than anything proving that they deserved to be the champions in this spring season. You know, they were prepared for this should Najin have pressured them into an uncomfortable position.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see, to look at this game and then think about what they... I'm going to have to go back to their draft phase because I'm pretty sure that they would just early pick Lulu and then wait for to see if Ryze was picked as a top lane pick, because the Twisted Fate, you know, that wouldn't have really worked in the lane swap, but I'm pretty sure they always picked their mid laner afterwards and had this reserve plan with the priority on the Lulu pick. So this is a really interesting pick ban priority innovation from Samsung Blue, and I loved what we saw with Acorn going into the mid lane and them taking a bit of a risk with Yasuo in a side lane.
Yeah, very well played by Blue. I mean, let's look at the last moments here in this first set. Just a great engage by Samsung, and this time Dade waiting patiently to make sure that he can target Space. Space all alone in the side. We're going to see Dade jump onto him right here. He gets targeted out.
Yeah, he saved his ultimate in spite of all of the other knockups that had already happened. Yeah. He wanted just to one-shot Space. And then coming back in, the polymorph, I mean, Dade barely dying right there before the polymorph could go off. And he still looks happy.
Yeah.
He's got the same haircut as you, Joe.
Dade and I are one and the same. But there he is looking very comfortable. I mean, the MVP of the spring season of Champions 2014 here. Just beautiful play that game. A very patient play, really, from that side lane. And everyone else, you know, Hart had really, really nice tidal waves from the side to zone people out or to engage. Deft rarely ever getting caught. And Spirit with a nice engage, of course, in that mid lane right before the end of the game, kicking someone forward just to get the knockup. So Samsung will take the first set, leads 1-0 in this matchup. Next up after this short break will be Samsung Ozone coming up for yet another rematch against CJ Entus Blaze. We'll see if CJ can tie it up to take it to a master match. We'll be back after a short break. Don't go anywhere.